Being interested in society and being interested in culture all spring from my interest in buildings. The buildings really are kind of pointless without putting them in the context of the people who live there and what were the social forces that made a building look the way it looked at a particular time. My father was a basketball star, and my mother worked as a registered nurse to help out when he was going to graduate school, was a high school basketball coach and American history teacher, and then he later became the assistant basketball coach at the University of Akron. One way in which I was so lucky is there were all these books lying around the house. Books about all sorts of things which I might never have picked up on my own, certainly. There was a copy of the 900 Days about the siege of Leningrad during the Second World War, and I read that, and it was gripping. Very early on, my father took me to the library and got me a library card. But then a terrible thing happened, and that is they wouldn't let me charge out the books which were really of interest to me, the books in the adult section. I've wondered, in retrospect, well, why wouldn't he charge out these books for me? Well, apart from his, concern, well, would I take care of them? I think that that these books about European architecture made him fearful about the truth, that I was gay without realizing. No one ever looked more elegant or dapper than Duke Ellington. Langston Hughes was an artist and a bohemian, and yet he dressed splendidly. So this then became something that it seemed to me that was legitimate and worthy of emulation, people who had taken such trouble to present themselves in a certain way. Because I like traditional clothing, I like it to be able to tweak it in some way, either in terms of the color or pattern, so that it isn't boring and staid and representative of the past, but it's something from today, but it still has a continuity to the past. It still has a connection to the style of the past, yet reflects my time today. There are these African vendors all over Harlem, and they sell these socks for little girls that cost $1. All the brightly colored ones, they're argyles, and there are ones that have hearts on them, and they never would expect that any man would buy them to wear them. I was going to this party that was going to be their silver ball at the Plaza Hotel for the Evidence Dance Company, and so silver, what in the hell can I wear that's silver? I had this bug.
I love the bug.
From Kenneth Lane, glued the pieces of mirror on the scarf, and voila. I didn't want to disappoint my parents, and I didn't want to be someone different than them. Eventually I did come out to them, but not until I was about to turn 25.
How were they about
Which
it?
was not long after I came out to myself. My mother, she responded in a typically religious way of saying that she thought that I should pray and ask God to help me to change. One of the things that I find fascinating about the building I live in now, though, is that it wasn't until 1941 that the first African American moved into this building. Fred O'Neill and his wife Charlotte. He was an actor, she was a housewife. He ultimately became the first African American to head Actors Equity. And they continued to live here until Mr. O'Neill died, and then his widow only recently moved out into a nursing home. I'm very interested in tradition, a tradition of people taking trouble to present themselves in a certain way, in a dignified sort of way. African Americans have done so much to invigorate and to vitalize the American culture.